Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar today through the Empowered Cities Initiative. And today's webinar is titled Strategies to Lead the Vision Forward to Financial Inclusion. We would like to give a special thank you to Citi Community Development for their support of the Empowered Cities Initiative. Next slide, please. My name is Michael Roush, and I'm the Director of the Real Economic Impact Network at the National Disability Institute. Before we get started with today's webinar, I would like to go over our housekeeping tips. First, listening to the webinar. The audio for today's meeting can be accessed using computer audio or by calling in by phone. If you select computer audio, please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer or prefer to listen by phone, dial 1-929-205-6099. The meeting code is 458-998-934. Next slide, please. Real-time captioning is provided during this webinar. The captions can be found by clicking on the CC button in your Zoom controls at the bottom of the screen. If you do not see the captions after clicking the button, please alert the host via the chat box. You may also view captions in your browser at http://www.streamtext.net/player?event=NDI. This information is also in the chat box. Next slide, please. We will have time for Q&A, for questions and answers. Please use the Q&A box to submit any questions you have during the webinar, and we will direct them accordingly at the end. If your question is not answered during the webinar, or you're listening by phone and not logged in, you may email amilio@ndi-inc.org. Next slide, please. Technical assistance. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to send a message to the NDI host, or you may send an email to amilio@ndi-inc.org. Please note this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be placed on the National Disability Institute website at nationaldisabilityinstitute.org. You go to the resource section, click on webinars, and the Empowered Cities section. Next slide. Great. So for today, for our webinar, we're going to provide an overview of Empowered Cities. Thanks to many new partners who have joined us and the questions that have come in, we're going to provide a quick overview of the Empowered Cities framework. The bulk of our presentation today is going to really be looking at strategies and examples municipalities and community-based organizations can take to lead the vision forward to financial inclusion. And we put together an easy way for us to keep this in mind as we look at building or moving that vision forward to financial inclusion. And we're going to highlight lead the vision forward. What does that mean? And examples. The next step is encourage and convene. Here we'll talk about who are the right partners to convene and get the conversation going. We'll also talk about the next strategy, which is align and coordinate. Here we will talk more about the synergies between multiple municipal agencies and community-based organizations. And finally, we're going to wrap the strategies up and discuss develop and build capacity and sustainability, which is an important piece as we lead the vision forward to building a financial inclusion and financial empowerment program. We're also going to spend some time sharing with you some resources and tools that have been developed to help municipalities and community-based organizations lead the vision forward to financial inclusion. And as mentioned earlier, we will also have some time for Q&A as well. Next slide, please. So for those of you who are new, I want to share just a little bit of information about the National Disability Institute and, as I mentioned, about Empowered Cities. National Disability Institute is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to building a better economic future for people with disabilities. The National Disability Institute is the first national organization committed exclusively to championing economic empowerment, financial education, asset development, and financial stability for all persons with disabilities across the spectrum of disabilities. NDI affects change through public education, policy development, training, technical assistance, and innovative initiatives such as Empowered Cities. Next slide, please. At the National Disability Institute, we envision a society where people with disabilities have the same opportunities to achieve financial stability and independence as people without disabilities. Please learn more by going to www.nationaldisabilityinstitute.org. Next slide, please. Great. So for some who have might be new to this webinar series, you might be wondering, what is Empowered Cities? So Empowered Cities is a partnership between City Community Development and National Disability Institute that is engaging municipalities and community partners across the United States to design, test, and deliver innovative and scalable solutions for expanding financial empowerment and financial inclusion in the disability community. You're going to learn more at the end of this about some of the innovative best practices that are taking place in the tools that we have developed under this initiative. Next slide. One of the key goals of this initiative of Empowered Cities is to promote collaboration and cooperation between key stakeholders. The strategy with Empowered Cities is that it's driven by a customer-centric approach in the design and delivery of resources, tools, and trainings. One of the key pieces with Empowered Cities is keeping persons with disabilities at the center of this work. And in the image that you see on the right-hand side, you see that it's an image that has people with disabilities in the center, and the partners and the collaborators, key stakeholders include municipalities, disability service providers, and financial inclusion and empowerment partners. It's important that all of these partners are engaged with the keeping in mind that persons with disabilities are at the center of this work. Next slide, please. So at Empowered Cities, we put together a conceptual framework based on feedback and thoughts from partners. And so our framework for Empowered Cities is twofold. One, to build the knowledge of key stakeholders, and second is to support the implementation of financial inclusion and financial empowerment strategies within local communities. So to build the knowledge of key stakeholders, the two parts of that framework here are learn about the needs of people with disabilities. It's important we understand who individuals with disabilities are and the financial needs of the community. The second part to building knowledge of key stakeholders is to learn about the different implementation models that are available and that are taking place within different communities across the country. Under the support implementation portion, it focuses on taking action and again, ensuring in sustainability and the impact of the work to put together. To support this framework, we've put together a webinar series and virtual workshops similar to today's webinar, developed tools and resources to build the knowledge and support the implementation, including learning paths, toolkits, and checklists. Also have developed briefs and blogs, which you'll learn more at the end, and also providing training and technical assistance to a wide variety of organizations across the country. Next slide, please. So as we build upon building the knowledge of key stakeholders and as we support the implementation, it's important that as we begin to take action, how do we do that? We're fortunate that we have Tina Lentz, who's the former executive administrator with the Office of Resilience and Community Services of the Office of Financial Empowerment in the City of Louisville, and is now a municipal liaison with the National Disability Institute. And one of the things that Tina has worked with us on and providing her insight on is the strategies to lead the vision forward and how municipalities and community-based organizations can do that. So today we're fortunate that Tina is going to walk us through each of these 4 strategies and give us some examples. With that, Tina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Michael, and good afternoon, everyone. I think you can go to the next slide. There we go, thank you. So let's get started by saying that the economic health of our cities and our communities depends on the financial well-being and the stability of all residents, and to make the case on why financial inclusion is important, as people with disabilities are a part of the local community. As one of the largest minority groups in the United States, more than 50 million people live with a disability, and 1 in 4 households include a child or an adult with disability. They have among the highest poverty rates, the lowest educational levels, the lowest average incomes, and the highest out-of-pocket expenses of all population groups. Any substantial shock to the financial stability of this population can put them at risk of losing their housing, nutrition, medical care, and other resources, making them even more vulnerable. Municipalities have a unique ability to lead, convene, and build economic fairness and inclusion for people with and without disabilities and their families. Today, we are sharing simple strategies municipalities can utilize to build financial inclusion for all, as well as action steps that can be taken by use of existing resources. Next slide, please. So with strategy 1, we're going to talk about leading the vision forward, and we're suggesting that you want to start from within. If you work to align what is going on inside local government through collaboration and communication, you can more easily build a network of community partners. First, connect with the Mayor's Office on Persons with Disabilities or the city's ADA office to co-lead this effort with you. These offices can provide guidance on the local disability community, their needs, and specific community-based organizations to engage. And identify other departments that should be part of this work. Many service-related departments are serving similar populations, including persons with disabilities. This may include Office of Housing, Economic Development, or Human Services departments. Explore and identify where crossovers occur and convene key representatives to help develop strategies, effective ways to collaborate, and accessibility policies and procedures that address inclusive messaging and accessibility measures. Crossover service areas may include economic development, the public library, health and wellness, permits and licenses, housing authority, social services, 211 and 311 call centers, and etc. Let me go a little deeper by what is meant by crossover. Your Department of Permits and Licenses may be issuing fines to homeowners for not cutting their grass or properly maintaining their property, while your social service department is providing assistance to help that same family to maintain a roof over their head and food on the table. Another example is that for people with limited income, library fines create a barrier to accessing the internet and other library resources. Patron's library card is blocked because of an overdue book. Revenue-generating activities such as these have a negative impact on our financially vulnerable residents, including persons with disabilities. But they also create an opportunity for strategic partnering that can help to identify avenues to promote and highlight resources across each of those departments targeted to persons with disabilities. For example, economic development, community services, and the library could partner to promote microenterprise, which is a viable means to provide income, assets, and other elements of self-sufficiency for this population. All this should be done using the lens of universal design principles. Universal design is the design of buildings, products, or environments to make them accessible to all people, regardless of age, disability, or other factors. For example, installing curb ramps help people that are wheelchair users, but also benefit mothers with strollers and seniors bringing home groceries. Holding public meetings and venues near public transportation lines can boost participation levels of people with disabilities and other low-income groups. It is also important to consistently demonstrate intentionality in your efforts to be accessible and inclusive, asking about accessibility needs, providing materials in appropriate formats, and ensuring that the space you are using is accessible. In doing these types of things, you serve as a model for other employers and agencies. And Michael will share a little bit more about this later. Next slide, please.
Tina?
Yes.
Yes, before we go on, hold on just a minute because I think we're having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
As it was going in and out for just a minute. So if everybody could just hold on for just a moment and we'll be right back with you as we try to figure this out.
Tina,
Yes.
if you could send me your phone number in the chat, in the Skype chat box or in the chat, I can call you into the meeting.
Okay, hold on here, the chat. Oh, here it is, okay. Okay. Can you see that? It says to Michael Roush privately. I guess, do I need to change that? Just, is this Shannon, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, hold on, let me do it again. That's funny because this all worked fine earlier, didn't it?
Who knows what's going on? As we
there you go.
tested this twice today with this new system. So everybody on the line, we greatly appreciate your assistance as we switch to a new platform here. But we're going to get right back on track in just one moment.
Tina, are you with us?
Hello?
Hello, you're back. Thank you, Tina.
All right, how's this?
So Tina, I think you might need to mute your computer now. Is that correct, Shannon?
Yes, I did it on her behalf. so it should be okay now. We'll just unmute her phone line and mute her computer. It's done.
Great.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for your patience. We're going to give this another shot. So with that, Tina, we'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Do you need me to repeat anything? Do I need to go back or just keep moving forward?
We'll keep moving forward. And then we
Okay,
can
great.
follow back up with questions at the end.
Okay. So
Thank you.
we're going to start here with strategy 2 then. So municipalities cannot do this work alone. To be impactful, they must cultivate partnerships and develop a shared vision to create a community-wide financial empowerment strategy that includes a comprehensive approach towards financial inclusion. City-led or city-supported financial empowerment efforts depend upon collaborative relationships with nonprofits and other key stakeholders working in the disability space and the financial empowerment space to broaden and maximize impact. This will allow organizations across those spectrums to develop new or stronger relationships and foster innovative thinking. For example, when the City of Louisville began this work in 2014 with the support of the LEAD Center, we convened a group of representatives from 30 different agencies to look at the work being done at the national level and around financial empowerment integration and workforce development, and then used that to begin the discussion around a local strategy of related services and programs for persons with disabilities. The work that day produced our initial priorities of engaging employers, building agency capacity, developing a strong network, and expanding supportive services resources. More than half of the organizations in attendance agreed to participate in an ongoing alliance that would map out relationships and opportunities for financial capability-related services, identify emerging needs and opportunities for collaboration, and develop a set of recommendations for next steps. That alliance is still together and includes the Center for Accessible Living, Kentucky Office for Vocational Rehabilitation, Metro United Way, Kentucky Office for the Blind, Louisville Asset Building Coalition, Goodwill Industries, Apprizon, Bank on Louisville, and the Louisville Metro Offices of Financial Empowerment and Aging and Disabled Citizens. It is important to educate partners and stakeholders by using data to understand where pockets of the disability community live and identify needed resources, then work to ensure that resources and services are available. For example, data can be used to create new pathways for partnering with financial institutions and community organizations to reach those who may be unbanked, underbanked, or credit invisible. National Disability Institute has developed resources to help local communities gather specific data. You will learn more about that at the end of this webinar. As I shared in the Louisville example, local, state, and regional groups working in this space have an interest in coming together and finding ways to collaborate. Collective knowledge brought together helps bring about better understanding of how people with disabilities go about living their daily lives, the financial challenges they face, and how to meet them where they are so that their needs can be more effectively addressed. These partnerships can help to ensure that the full inclusion of persons with disabilities into financial empowerment programs goes beyond just making sure that the facilities and programs are ADA accessible, but that they are inclusive to the financial needs and nuances of persons with disabilities as well, such as benefits planning and work supports and their opportunity to build savings without risking their benefits. Cultivating collaborations and partnerships will broaden the impact and provide more comprehensive services. As a representative of local government, you can leverage your influence to convene new combinations of stakeholders and partners working in the disability space and the financial empowerment space, allowing opportunities for organizations across those spectrums to develop new or stronger relationships. By doing so, you will build awareness and greater understanding of the need to intentionally include persons with disabilities into the broader array of financial capability services and programs. Next slide, please. So with strategy 3, we're going to talk about to align and coordinate stronger collaborations. You can do this utilizing pre-existing relationships to expand or enhance financial empowerment-related services to people with disabilities. Breaking down silos and strengthening partnerships is key to bringing in new stakeholders to create more comprehensive and effective programs and services that more intentionally serve people with disabilities. By silos, I mean departments that focus solely on their mission, but in actuality, elements of that mission may be replicated in other departments. However, there is no collaboration or communication between them. Going back to the example I provided in Strategy 1, economic development is focused on building businesses in the community. Essential to that is providing opportunities for self-employment or micro-enterprise, which is offered through the Community Services Department. This represents a perfect alignment for expanding and enhancing services that could provide opportunities for persons with disabilities to gain financial stability using existing services. As previously mentioned, build a partner network that includes both local government and community-based organizations as a mechanism for aligning and coordinating inclusive and accessible financial empowerment services and resources. Conversations generated through a network of aligned partners provokes innovation and efficiencies and benefits everyone at the table. Use these networking opportunities to map current resources, identify gaps not only in services but also in accessibility and availability, and explore new approaches to promoting awareness and to accessing accurate informational resources and strategies to assist persons with disabilities in building their financial capability. This information can then be used to produce such things as resource and referral guides and client and provider toolkits. Equally important is to host community conversations with non-disability partners and persons with disabilities to develop greater understanding and promote buy-in and trust. Formal or informal, these open conversations help to find new partners and opportunities and build capacity to work better together. They also create pathways for others to contribute and generates public knowledge that can then be used to inform decision-making. Work in partnership to set standards, boost participation, and provide support to improve program quality. Develop marketing, referral, and outreach materials that highlight specific services and that visually include representatives from the disability community. Let's talk a little more about setting standards. Many of you should remember when you were first asked when making a conference reservation if you needed a vegetarian option for lunch. That really wasn't that long ago, but now it's common practice. We should all work to put into practice to ask if special accommodations are needed when holding a public event, workshop, or meeting. A little later in the webinar, Michael will provide some information on how to ask that question and a few others to guide you. A key approach to assist with aligning and coordinating efforts is to establish an advisory council to help move things forward. Include local, regional, and national level representatives such as the FDIC, the Federal Reserve Bank, Veterans Affairs, vocational rehabilitation, and programs such as VITA and Bank On. As part of this group, the voices of the disability community must be included to assure that program and services are meeting the needs of people with disabilities. Next slide, please. So with strategy number 4, I'm highlighting how important it is to develop and build capacity and sustainability within the partner network and beyond. This can be accomplished in several ways. Host and/or provide training that builds the awareness of nonprofit service providers on financial inclusion that will then be passed along to those being served. This helps to create a common language, promotes a shared vision, and increases confidence levels related to engaging in conversations about financial issues. For example, the Louisville Metro Office of Financial Empowerment provides training to expand the capacity of staff at disability agencies and other nonprofits dedicated to financial empowerment work. The goals of this training are to improve understanding of the financial issues and challenges people face, to increase the confidence of case managers regarding those financial issues, to provide guidance on when and how to integrate financial empowerment into the delivery of services, to raise awareness about sound financial education standards and practices, to create a support system for implementers, and to sustain and expand financial empowerment efforts across the community. It is important to encourage all nonprofit service providers to become more educated on disability-related financial capability topics. To help in this, tap into the state-level offices with a focus on disability, such as vocational rehabilitation or the state treasurer's office. These offices employ service matter experts or subject matter experts and often provide free training on disability sensitivity, accessing ABLE accounts, and the impact of employment on benefits. The more social service providers understand how to navigate the financial challenges people with disabilities face, the better equipped they are to guide all the people they serve. By identifying training needs and the subject matter experts to deliver that training, you can build the capacity of nonprofit community service providers, disseminate information on disability sensitivity, and develop a deeper understanding of the impact of employment on benefits, as well as effective ways of using universal design principles to ensure accessibility to as many people as possible, not just persons with disabilities. Next slide. So, to recap, we talked about starting from within and serving as a model. We talked about identifying partners and building awareness, and then breaking down silos and building a network, and building the capacity and creating a common language. The thing to remember is, if you are working on building the financial capability of people in your communities, it is important to do it in an inclusive way so that everyone can participate. These strategies and action steps presented here today were offered to help generate ideas and new ways of thinking without requiring additional resources. Identifying the financial needs of persons with disabilities can be approached in multiple ways. It is important that municipalities and community-based organizations identify the best approach based on available resources. Convening local partners to gain buy-in and having the community's voice involved from the start will strengthen that effort. There is not a one-size-fits-all approach for serving persons with disabilities through a financial empowerment lens, but with the right strategy and the right people at the table, a municipality can help create financial inclusiveness and accessibility across the community by identifying opportunities for universally designed services and supports that advance financial capability and improve positive financial behaviors for persons with disabilities. I'm going to send this back to you, Michael.
Great. Thank you, Tina, for that information that you've provided. We're going to go a little bit deeper in some of these topics when we go into the Q&A. But if we could go to the next slide. Great. So to build on the information that Tina shared, we wanted to share with you some tools and resources to really help lead the vision forward to financial inclusion. In the coming weeks, a new brief will be coming out that looks at this topic about lead the vision forward, as well as building upon the list that Tina had just shared as a checklist for communities that they can access as well. NDI has developed a series of tools and resources to assist in building the framework that we've talked about earlier, to really help to build the knowledge and to support the implementation of financial inclusion for all. On the screen are some images of the different resources, some of the resources that have been developed. Next slide, please. I want to spend some time just going over and highlighting some of the resources and tools that have been developed. Based on feedback from our network of partners on the best way for them to receive information or how they would like to receive information, NDI has developed quick reference guides. These quick reference guides provide a high-level overview of a topic, share some best practices, and then guides organizations, excuse me, to links and other resources that they want to go deeper in a specific topic. Some examples of these quick reference guides include data collection, defining disability, understanding the disability service systems, and identifying disability partners. As Tina had mentioned about leading the vision forward, one of those strategies is to understand the data that she had shared. Excuse me. The importance of gathering data. So this quick reference guide provides you with some tips on where to identify those data resources. Also, defining disability, really understanding who people with disabilities are. This quick reference guide provides that information. As you convene partners and really trying to understand the disability service system of who should be at the table, in addition to the local municipal offices, 2 quick reference guides, understanding the disability service system, as well as identifying disability partners, can assist in identifying who those partners are to engage at the local level. NDI has also written, and we continue to write briefs that further expands on each of the pillars of the Empowered Cities framework. These briefs provide more detail on each of the pillars, and they also highlight best practices of municipalities and community organizations who are doing innovative work to lead the vision forward to financial inclusion. 2 additional briefs, as I mentioned, will be released in the coming weeks, and you will each receive them as a registered participant of this webinar, and they will also be placed on the Empowered Cities website. As I mentioned earlier too, one of the additional tools that will be coming is the checklist using the Lead the Vision Forward strategies as well. Finally, there are also tools available on our website that provide further assistance, as it was mentioned, about identifying additional partners to engage. National Disability Institute has developed a resource mapping exercise that's free to access on our website. And this exercise and tool creates a simplified starting point to identify those partners, identify the needs, as well as the gaps within the local communities. There's also a video that accompanies the resource mapping tools as well. And also, as Tina mentioned in Lead the Vision Forward, regarding the importance of accessibility and creating events and services that are inclusive to all. NDI has resources on our website to assist in creating an accommodation statement and an accessibility checklist of things to keep in mind. Both of those tools can help further guide you as you work towards these different strategies to lead the vision forward. Next slide, please. You can access the briefs, the tool, and quick reference guides at the Empowered Cities website, and it's www.empoweredcities.com. And also that will also take you to the other resource tabs and tools tabs, where you'll find the additional tools of the resource mapping, as well as the accommodation statements that you can access as well. All right, so those are a highlight of some of the tools and resources that are available to assist. And as we mentioned, additional resources will be coming out shortly as well. So with that, we want to go into our questions and Q&A portion. We do have some questions that come in. If you have questions, a question you would like to ask, just a reminder that you can go to the bottom of your screen and the toolbar should pop up and it should say Q&A. If you click on Q&A, then it will open up where you can ask questions. Or if you're more comfortable, you can also type them in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. So to get us started and to go a little bit deeper, let's go into some of these questions. So Tina, I'm going to have you start with this one and then we can build upon it. The question is, how do we build momentum to get others to buy in to this topic with limited staffing or other resources?
Me? Okay,
Yes.
Thank you, Michael. So, just talking from personal experience, I would say that it was important to acknowledge that resources are limited, if not disappearing, and this includes public assistance dollars, and that sometimes that something needs to be done to address those increasing needs. Those lines of people seeking assistance or services surely is not getting any shorter. If individuals and families with and without disabilities are better equipped to handle their financial lives, that frees up resources for others and has the potential to increase the tax base. And it's not adding anything new to anyone's plate, just looking at a more effective way to move folks along the pathway to self-sufficiency. I hope that answered your question.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Tina. I just add a couple of suggestions to this question as well about how to build the momentum to get others to buy in. At the National Disability Institute for over the past 12 years, we've hosted a variety of started out as being called asset development summits and financial inclusion summits and work group meetings and other convenings. And these convenings have brought together diverse partners to the table to have a conversation on what does financial inclusion mean and what are those needs. This has been a successful strategy and to be able to get communities engaged and involved in this this work. And in the brief on identifying the needs of people with disabilities, it highlights some different communities that have done, hosted a convening and then have implemented different strategies. And so in that brief and also a webinar that we had done previously gave an example of the city of Chicago, the city of New York, the city of Boston, and so forth that have hosted these convenings and has really allowed for the innovative activities to take place. The other piece just to mention on this is the importance of pulling the local data and making the case so people can see the needs as well as how large the community is within a certain geographic area. And again, accessing the quick reference guides would definitely be able to help with that. Great. So this kind of leads into that question, but the next question is, what are some tips to get buy-in from both other departments and community-based organizations? What is the hook? And I think I just gave the example of the data piece that might be the hook. But Tina, do you have other examples from your experience of what is the hook to get the buy-in from other organizations?
Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know if I was still muted. So I think, resource efficiency is always an attractor, right? As is mission alignment. So if all sides benefit when positive outcomes are achieved and bigger and better things happen through collaboration, everybody is happy. So it makes sense to use the data to paint that picture and then talk about how greater outcomes can be achieved in a more cost-effective way. I think that, just that simple answer helps grab some people's attention.
Great. So the next question we have is, how do we identify the right financial empowerment approach for our area?
So that's a good question. I addressed this a little bit in my talking points earlier, but I think identifying the experts in your community and bringing them together in the planning, development, and delivery will ensure that it's the right approach. Whatever makes that up, whatever the ingredients are to that, being abreast of what's happening at the national level and what's working in other locales. And whenever possible, inviting them to come and speak to your group or going to to go to them to learn more about it will make sure that you're, abreast of what's going on and your current. And plus, it's an opportunity to steal some really good ideas. So I think that, it's whatever's right combination for your community using the partners that you have at hand is the right one.
Great. And again, as I mentioned in the brief, I think one of the things that Tina had mentioned is, the uniqueness of communities. And I think that when we have hosted and see other organizations that have hosted these national or these local convenings, that in some communities, their area of focus is different amongst communities. An example is that in the city of Chicago, they really looked at looking at the banking status of the disability community. In Houston, they looked at building community resources and that awareness, which we also saw in New Orleans as an important piece. And then the city of New York, as they hosted their convening and looked at, it was the financial coaching and really integrating benefits into that. So we look at the right financial empowerment approach. It really is looking at, as Tina mentioned also, what is that area of focus or the interests of the local community. Great. So the next question we have here is, if a community already has a partner network focusing on financial empowerment, but not specifically for people with disabilities, should another network be created to focus on financial inclusion for persons with disabilities?
So I'm going to say not necessarily. I think being intentional in inclusion and accessibility opens the doors for greater participation regardless of the population you're targeting. And regardless of that population being targeted for services, there will more than likely be a percentage of persons with some type of disability in the mix. So knowing what resources are available across the board benefits all involved, and having a greater understanding of how to navigate the benefit system for persons with disabilities will improve the level of services being provided, regardless of what door a person enters. So having one network focused on financial empowerment for all would ensure that everyone is knowledgeable about available resources and working toward inclusion and accessibility.
Great. Thank you, Tina. So earlier you talked about the trainings. Can you share some examples of trainings that we should access? And then it goes on to say, are there materials already created that we can use in our local community?
Well, sure. I have just 3 immediate examples that come to mind that have been successful in the Louisville community. And that's, and I believe every community has access to community work incentive coordinators, or CWICs. So these are trained individuals who provide confidential services to people with disabilities who receive supplemental Social Security income or Social Security disability income. CWICs educate beneficiaries on how employment will affect their public benefits, such as SSI, SSDI, Medicare, and Medicaid, subsidized housing, and food stamps. In Louisville, these subject matter experts were willing to provide training so that case managers and others would have a better understanding and to help dispel some of the myths around disability and employment, for example. Also in Louisville, we had worked closely with our state treasurer to help increase the knowledge related to ABLE accounts. Knowing who is responsible for that in your state and inviting them to the table will give you access to another subject matter expert that can help distribute that information. And then I think everyone should include behavioral economics in their array of training offerings. Having a better understanding of human behavior and what influences financial decision making is key to working with individuals who want to increase their financial capability. In the beginning, this was actually the hook for us, the thing that got more nonprofit frontline staff engaged in the work in general as individuals. For this, we worked with a university professor to develop the training. So those are the 3 things that come to mind quickly.
Great. Thank you, Tina. And also, if folks go to the NDI website at nationaldisabilityinstitute.org, you'll see some other online trainings and some resources that folks can access as well. So these are great examples. Also, if you want to learn more about ABLE accounts, you can go to ablenrc.org to learn more about ABLE accounts. So another question that we have here is, you had mentioned about intentionally including disability. When you talk about intentionally including disability, what does that mean?
Well, I think it's about making sure that you're asking the questions when planning a public meeting of any sort, of workshop, a convening of any sort, that you're asking the questions that will allow for the most people possible to attend, regardless of what their specific need. So that's an intentional move to be mindful of the needs of the disabled community in your community. And then acting upon those and being able to provide access to information and resources that will help guide people where they are looking to go, and having that information available on your website or through printed materials is also an intentional step to take. You know, being visual about the inclusion of persons with disabilities in your printed materials and on your website shows your intentionality to outreach to this specific population.
Great, thank you, Tina. So we have another question that came in, and I can start with this and then have Tina, you add to it. The question is there a different way to think about behavioral economics for people with disabilities? This is a really good question and something that we get often. So I will share my perspective first. I think one of the things that's that we have to keep in mind when it comes to the behavioral economics for individuals with disabilities and how it might be different from other communities is looking at the support system that also support an individual and that may also influence the individual, whether it's a paid or a family support. So that might create some of the behaviors for the financial behaviors of individuals. The other piece is that I would share is that sometimes also the disability service system could be an influencing factor, which at times might be something else that other communities don't have to look at. And when I mention that, is really understanding the myths that we may have heard or that we believe when we receive a public benefit that might sway our positive behavior to saving money, like looking at an ABLE account or other resources. So I think the disability service system, but also could influence the behavior of individuals at times. I'm not saying positive or negative, it just we have that disability service system, but then also looking at our circle of support and who supports the individual. I think the overall premise of behavior economics definitely applies to the disability community. It just might be some influencing factors that we have to navigate that potentially other communities may not have to navigate. Tina, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you actually hit on every point that came to my mind. There's probably, it may be more of a challenge because there are, the support systems, the personal support systems with family and friends or guides of some sort that also impact their decision making. And so, of course, it'd be great if you could include them when you're meeting with those clients, but and that's not going to always be possible, of course. So I think you hit it, Michael, when you said that there's a little bit more involved, but I just know being aware of that and finding a way to address it, at least put it out on the table and acknowledge it is probably a way to get a little farther down that road.
Great. Thank you, Tina. We have a couple others, but we're running out of time. But we did get a message that says, do you have any resources developed for individuals just starting to learn about financial capability? For example, an individual exiting homelessness and trying to build a budget. If you go to the National Disability Institute's website, under resources, you will see an online classroom. These are free courses that have been developed that individuals can access. One of them is creating a zero balance budget. The other one, there's another one on steps to achieving your American dream. And each of these provide and help guide an individual. Also on the website are the resource pages as well that you can access. If this person or others have additional questions on resources, please send an email, and Al, if we could put this in the chat box, to ask@ndi-inc.org, and we will be sure to address those. Al, could we go to the next slide? Again, we'd like to say thank you to Citi Community Development for their support of Empowered Cities and this initiative, and to building helping to build a better financial future for individuals with disabilities and their families, and for recognizing the importance of building financial inclusion. Next slide. If you have additional questions, or if you would like to schedule a call to discuss your financial inclusion strategy for your local government, municipality, your community-based organization, please feel free to reach out to me and Michael Roush at mroush@ndi-inc.org, Just a reminder that you will be receiving the PowerPoint, and then you'll also have receive the different tools that we had mentioned. They are located on the Empowered Cities website, and the new briefs and tools that will be released in the coming weeks, you will also receive those as a registered attendee of this webinar. But if you have additional questions or would like additional support, then please feel free to reach out. Next slide, please. Please join us for our next webinar as we do a panel discussion on municipalities taking action. You'll hear from different cities and the steps that they have taken to take action. And this will be a panel discussion. It will be a conversation type webinar. So please join us on July 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern. I would like to say thank you to Tina Lentz for sharing this information and providing us these great steps that we can take through these strategies. I'd also like to say thank you to the Empowered Cities team for all of their work to further expand financial inclusion for all and for the assistance with this webinar. So with that, I thank you for attending, and I hope everybody has a great day.